In a city that never sleeps, where light is engineered to conquer the ancient desert darkness and dreams are a commodity sold on every corner, it's terrifyingly easy to become invisible. Dubai is a mirage of opportunity, a glittering paradox of steel and ambition rising from the sand. But for one young woman, the radiant promise of a golden future led her not to a sun-drenched palace, but into a silent, chilling darkness from which she would never return. This isn't just a story about a disappearance. It's a story about the price of a dream, the lethal danger of a secret, and the single, haunting question that echoes through the marble halls and mirrored corridors of a city that often prefers to forget its inconvenient truths. What happens when you become a threat to the carefully constructed world of a powerful man? Hello and a very special welcome to every single one of you, whether you've been with us from the beginning or are just joining our community today. This is The Killer Next Door, the channel where we pull back the velvet rope and investigate the crimes that happen in plain sight, hidden behind dazzling smiles, immense status, and stunning facades. To all of you watching from across the globe, I have to ask, where in the world are you tuning in from right now? Let me know your city and country in the comments below. I read every single one, and it's truly incredible to see how far our community of truth seekers stretches. Our story begins not with a crime, but with a hope as vast as the Arabian sky. A young woman named Ayesha Khan arrived in Dubai from a modest, close-knit town in Kerala, India. She carried 2 suitcases and a heart filled with the same fierce ambition that fuels the city's very foundations. She wasn't naive, she was fiercely determined, with a quiet intelligence in her eyes. She saw the towering, impossible skyscrapers not as impenetrable monuments of wealth, but as ladders she was fully capable of climbing. She landed a coveted job as a senior stylist at Gilded, an achingly exclusive beauty salon tucked away in the Dubai Mall, a place frequented by the city's untouchable elite, the socialites, the second wives of billionaires, the influencers whose entire lives were a meticulously curated performance of perfection. Ayesha possessed a rare gift. Her hands were not just skilled, they were artists. She could transform a face, not with masking, but with enhancement, drawing out a client's hidden confidence. But more than her technical skill, it was her warm, genuine, and calming demeanor that made clients trust her implicitly. In a city of transactional relationships, Ayesha offered a moment of authentic connection. She wasn't just doing their hair and makeup, she was a confidant, a silent witness to their insecurities, helping them construct the public faces they presented to the world. But after hours, when the last diamond bracelet had been clasped and the salon fell silent, Ayesha would return to her small, meticulously tidy studio apartment in the Al Quoz industrial area, a world away from the glittering downtown core. The view from her single window was of other, identical apartment blocks and the constant, dusty hum of construction. She would look out at the distant, tantalizing glow of the Burj Khalifa, a solitary, mocking star in her personal sky, and dream of a life where she wasn't just serving luxury, but living it. She dreamed of stability, of a love that was real, of a family to call her own. She was tired of the relentless struggle, of sending most of her salary home and carefully budgeting the rest for rent and groceries. She believed, with every fiber of her being, that she deserved a piece of the beautiful, serene life she helped create for others every single day. The pivotal, life-altering turning point came on a humid, stardusted Thursday night. A regular client, eternally grateful for Ayesha's masterful work on her for a major charity gala, gifted her a VIP pass to Elysium, one of the most mythologized and sought-after nightclubs in all of downtown Dubai. Stepping inside was like crossing a threshold into another dimension. The air itself was thick with the scent of exclusive perfume and expensive cigar smoke, and the deep, thrumming bass of the music vibrated up through the Italian marble floors, into the very bones of the patrons. And it was there, amidst the swirling, hypnotic lights and the beautiful, disconnected people, that she caught the eye of Omar al-Said. Omar wasn't just a man, he was an institution, a self-made legend in the city's nightlife underworld. The owner and undisputed king of Elysium, he was a figure who moved through the crowded room with the quiet, unassailable authority of a predator. He was always impeccably dressed in tailored, dark suits. His smile was a calculated weapon of disarming charm, and his presence commanded a visible radius of respect and subtle fear. When his gaze, dark and intense, focused on Ayesha, it was like a spotlight had found her in the anonymous, dancing crowd. He didn't just see another beautiful woman, he saw something intriguing, something refreshingly real in a world of polished fakes. Their courtship was a whirlwind of intoxicating, almost surreal luxury. Omar opened doors to a life Ayesha had only glimpsed in glossy magazines. It was private, moonlit dinners on pristine, private beaches where the tables were set right in the lapping surf, their feet buried in the cool, white sand. It was spontaneous weekend trips to Abu Dhabi in his chauffeured, silent Rolls-Royce. He showered her with gifts, not just flowers, but a delicate, heavy gold bracelet from a designer she'd never heard of, a purse whose price tag she dared not imagine, and promises that felt as solid and permanent as the diamonds he pointed to in the windows of the Mall of the Emirates. He made her feel profoundly chosen, truly seen, and utterly adored. He whispered a future into her ear where her struggles were a distant memory, where her small studio apartment was replaced with a penthouse view that belonged to her. Her close friends, a small, protective circle of fellow expats navigating their own precarious paths in the city, voiced their cautious concerns. Men like Omar, Ayesha. They live in a different universe, one warned over a cheap dinner. They collect beautiful things, including people. They don't marry girls like us. But Ayesha, her head spinning from the altitude of this new life, was in love, not just with the man, but with the future he so vividly painted. She believed his charm was a gateway to the security she so desperately craved. She saw his immense power and wealth not as a potential threat, but as an impenetrable shield that would now protect her. For several months, she lived suspended in this beautiful, intoxicating dream. Then, in a single, heart-stopping moment, everything shifted. Alone in the sterile, fluorescent light of her bathroom, staring at a plastic stick balanced on the edge of the sink, two bold, undeniable blue lines appeared. A wave of primal, cold fear was instantly washed away by a surge of overwhelming, fierce joy. This was it. The family she had always dreamed of. The permanent, unbreakable bond that would finally cement her future with Omar. She imagined a small, chubby hand in hers, a sun-drenched nursery with a breathtaking view of the city, a traditional, vibrant wedding that would beautifully blend their two worlds. Filled with this new certainty, she confidently quit her job at the salon, believing Omar's repeated promises that he would provide for her, that she would never have to worry about money again. She planned an elaborate, romantic evening to tell him, but the words, swollen with hope and fear, tumbled out in a nervous, excited rush one quiet evening in his minimalist, cold penthouse. The change in him was instantaneous and terrifying. The charming, practiced smile vanished, replaced by a mask of cold, detached calculation. The warmth in his eyes iced over into something hard and distant. "This is complicated," he said, his voice unnervingly flat. "The timing is terrible. My business. There are rivals, investors, people always watching. This could be used against me." The man who had promised her the entire world was now treating her pregnancy, the life they had created, like a corporate liability, a hostile takeover of his carefully managed life. The daily calls became less frequent, then stopped altogether. The extravagant gifts ceased. His excuses were a litany of business pressures, complicated connections, and vague, looming threats. Ayesha's beautiful dream was rapidly curdling into a waking nightmare of gnawing anxiety and sleepless nights. The life growing inside her, once a source of pure, unadulterated joy, was now the source of a terrifying, profound uncertainty. She was utterly alone, jobless, pregnant, and the man she loved was treating her like a problem he needed to manage, to contain, or to make disappear. But the Ayesha who had bravely traveled across an ocean for a better life was not a woman who would be easily discarded. The same fiery determination that brought her to Dubai now fueled her desperate fight for her child's future. She began to demand, with increasing force, what she felt was rightfully hers and her baby's: marriage, financial security, public acknowledgement. She refused to be his dirty secret, a hidden shame. In a moment of fierce, maternal anger, she told him that if he didn't step up, she would go to the authorities. She threatened to expose not just their relationship, but the unsettling things she had begun to notice: the men with cold, empty eyes and thick necks who visited his office after hours, the whispered conversations that stopped abruptly the moment she entered a room, the large, unmarked bags of cash she had once, accidentally, seen in the trunk of his car. She was no longer just a pregnant girlfriend, she had become a direct, existential threat to the shadowy, precarious foundations of his entire empire. Omar's warning subtly shifted from dismissive to openly sinister. "You are a sweet girl, Ayesha, but you don't understand the world you're playing in," he told her, his voice low and dangerously calm. "For your own safety, and for the baby's, you need to learn to be quiet. Some truths are like vipers, they get loose, and everyone gets bitten." But Ayesha, armed with the fierce, primal protectiveness of a mother, was past listening. Her courage, her demand for justice, had become her most dangerous liability. The fateful call came on a quiet Tuesday night. After weeks of agonizing silence, Omar's name flashed on her phone screen. His voice was strangely calm, almost gentle, a ghost of the man she first fell for. He said he wanted to talk, to finally work things out, to do the right thing. He asked her to come to Elysium after closing, when the staff was gone and they could speak in complete privacy, without any distractions. A fragile, desperate flicker of her old hope ignited. Maybe the father she had dreamed of was still in there. Maybe the pressure had finally made him see reason. She dressed with immense care, choosing a flowing, elegant emerald green dress that complemented her pregnancy glow and made her feel strong. She sprayed on the last drops of the expensive, floral perfume he had bought her during their first month together, a scent she now associated with both intoxicating love and bitter betrayal. As she looked at her reflection in the mirror, she placed a hand on her swollen belly, feeling the baby kick softly in response. "It's going to be okay, little one," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Daddy is going to make everything right." She texted her best friend, Mina, "Meeting Omar at the club. Pray for me. I think this is it." Finally. The club was a haunting, hollowed-out ghost of its former vibrant self. The pounding music was gone, replaced by the lonely hum of industrial vacuum cleaners and the clinking of bottles being cleared. The dazzling, kaleidoscopic lights were off, leaving the vast, opulent space submerged in a gloomy, unsettling half-light. The bouncers, who usually greeted her with wide, deferential smiles, simply nodded, their expressions blank and unreadable, as they unhooked the thick velvet rope. The extensive network of security cameras, which normally provided a digital nervous system for the entire club, captured her final, hopeful walk. She moved slowly, deliberately, one hand resting protectively on the curve of her belly. A small, tentative smile playing on her lips as she turned the corner and disappeared down the plush, sound-absorbing hallway that led exclusively to Omar's private, soundproofed office. That hallway was a portal between two worlds. On one side was the life she knew, on the other, a profound and absolute silence from which she would never emerge. Omar's story to the police was simple, rehearsed, and chillingly devoid of emotion, they had argued. She had become hysterical, irrational. She had stormed out of a back entrance in a rage, and he, respecting her space, had let her go. He claimed he never saw her again. But the physical and digital evidence, what little of it wasn't corrupted or vanished, whispered a different, far more horrifying truth. The club's state-of-the-art security system, a digital fortress, had suffered a catastrophic and localized data corruption, precisely for the critical 2-hour window of Ayesha's visit. The specific cameras covering the back alley exits and the service elevator were, conveniently, undergoing unscheduled maintenance. Ayesha's phone, which had been pinging cell towers with reliable consistency, went permanently dead the moment she crossed the threshold into that private office. It was never used again. Her passport, her meager savings in a local bank account, the tiny, carefully chosen baby clothes, and a single stuffed elephant she had started to collect, all remained untouched in her apartment. It was as if she had been digitally, physically, and existentially erased from the face of the earth with terrifying efficiency. The official investigation was a masterclass in deliberate obstruction and bureaucratic quicksand. The initial police report was thorough and concerned, but as soon as Omar's battalion of powerful, high-priced lawyers became involved, the investigative momentum hit a wall. Witnesses among the club staff, many of whom were on sponsored visas, developed sudden, severe amnesia. The bouncers who had let her in gave wildly conflicting, rehearsed statements. One insisted she left in tears. Another claimed she was smiling, relieved. A third, more brazenly, stated under oath that he never saw her at all that night. But Detective Karim Hassan, a seasoned, world-weary investigator with little patience for the city's corrupting influence, refused to let the case be relegated to a cold case file. He noticed the subtle anomalies that others willfully ignored. The club's sophisticated sound system logs showed an unusual, deafening spike in volume at the exact time of Ayesha's visit, a sonic blanket powerful enough to drown out any and all sound from the office. He discreetly tracked Omar's personal vehicle GPS, provided by the car's concierge service, and found that instead of returning to his penthouse, the Rolls-Royce had driven to a private, members-only marina in the Jumeirah Bay area in the dead of the night. It was a janitor, a quiet, deeply religious man from Bangladesh who was fearful for his job and his family back home, who finally gave Detective Hassan a fragile, crucial thread to pull. Shaking with nerves in a sterile interview room, he confessed that he had seen two of Omar's most trusted, intimidating security guards carrying a heavy, industrial-grade, rolled-up carpet out of the club's back service door. It was large, bulky, and they handled it with a strained, solemn care that suggested significant weight. He remembered the incident clearly because it was so odd. No renovations were scheduled, and the carpet was new. He watched from a shadowy alcove as they loaded the rolled carpet into the gaping trunk of Omar's Rolls-Royce. The car drove away into the pre-dawn darkness. The GPS data from Omar's luxury yacht, the Scheherazade, obtained with a difficult-to-secure warrant, told the rest of the grim, unspoken story. It left the secluded marina at 3:17 a.m. and sailed on a direct, purposeful route into the deep, international waters of the Persian Gulf. For 2 hours, its signal showed it drifting almost motionless in a remote, desolate area where the sea is thousands of feet deep, a perfect, liquid grave. Then, as the sun began to paint the horizon, it turned around and returned to its berth. Forensic teams, working against time and immense political pressure, conducted a luminol sweep of Omar's office. In the microscopic cracks between the floorboards and the grout of the private, marble bathroom, a faint, ghostly blue glow emerged in patches. Trace amounts of blood, so minute and degraded they could never yield a DNA profile, but their presence and pattern were enough to suggest a violent, frantic struggle had been meticulously, professionally cleaned. Omar's legal team argued it was from 100 possible, innocent sources: a cut from a broken champagne flute, a nosebleed from a drunken patron. Without a body, it was damning, but ultimately circumstantial. Ayesha's family arrived from their small village in India, her mother's face a heart-wrenching map of grief and disbelief. They held desperate, poorly attended press conferences that were barely covered by the major networks, pleading for answers that never materialized. They met with stone-faced officials in air-conditioned offices who offered polished platitudes and empty promises. The case, once a flash of sensational headlines, began to fade from public view, deliberately starved of oxygen by unseen, powerful hands. Omar al-Said continues to reign over his neon-lit kingdom. Elysium is as pulsating and popular as ever. He is photographed at international film festivals and high-profile charity galas. His smile unchanged, his life utterly, brazenly uninterrupted. He operates with the impunity of a man who knows his wealth is an indestructible fortress and his web of connections is a moat that justice simply cannot cross. But the truth, no matter how deep it's sunk, has a weight of its own. It lies in the crushing, lightless silence at the bottom of the Persian Gulf. It lives in the shattered heart of a mother in a small Indian village who still keeps her daughter's room perfectly preserved, a tiny, unworn onesie folded neatly in a drawer. It echoes in the tortured conscience of the janitor who still sees the haunting image of that rolled carpet in his dreams. And it resonates in the determined work of a detective who keeps a copy of Ayesha's file on his desk. A silent promise that she is not forgotten. Ayesha Khan came to Dubai chasing a dream woven from light and opportunity. She found a love that felt like a fairy tale, she created a new life, and she appears to have paid for both with her own. Her story is a chilling, enduring reminder that behind the glittering, engineered skyline and the seductive promise of a golden tomorrow, there can exist a terrible, consuming darkness. And it asks us one simple, haunting question in a city built on mirages. How many other Ayeshas have vanished without a trace, simply because they became inconvenient truths? This was the story of Ayesha Khan. But what do you think happened in that soundproofed office? Do you believe the investigation was actively sabotaged, or was it simply a perfect storm of a lack of evidence? Could there be other women who have suffered a similar, silent fate in the shadows of this glittering city? I want to hear your theories, your thoughts, and your perspectives in the comments below. Let's keep her story alive. If this deep dive into a mystery that remains tragically unsolved captivated you, if you believe that stories like Ayesha's deserve to be told and remembered, then you're in the right place. Help us shed light on the darkest corners of the human experience by liking this video, subscribing to The Killer Next Door, and hitting that notification bell. There are countless more stories waiting for a voice, and together, we can ensure they are heard. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes, the killer next door doesn't live in a haunted house. He owns the most exclusive nightclub in town.